And especially the last 10 years, we on Earth have been experiencing a major supernatural episode. Reports of unusual events, spiritual events coming from every habitable continent.
Hollow voices. I first heard it at the verge of the timber where the snow went falling slant, like a rapture of ash from a sky bleached to bone. The cabin stood 30 yards behind, a dull orange square that breathed and starved in the same breath. All else was the white of old graves and the black of old fires, and my own dark boot marks wound to the porch like a string to a snared thing. Over those prints new tracks had come, longer, deeper. They ran alongside as if a companion had been there the whole way, a half step at my shoulder, a shadow with a spine. The world had the quiet of a church the morning after it burns. It was January. The cabin was what a man afforded when he had come up out of a life like a stripped wire. 2 rooms and a stove that ate wood as a poor man eats bread, without pleasure. A creek under ice murmured a scripture with no God to hear it. When I took the lease, the owner laughed and said, "You'll be lonely out there." And he was right. The pines spoke like people in some other room, and some nights I woke with the sense of someone seated at the foot of my bed. But when I reached, there was only the cold like a body turned to stone. The air had that iron tang a man knows from a cut lip. I'd gone out to smoke. The old ones find doors even after you bar them. That was when I heard my name. Not a shout. A thing spoken low as if not to wake a child.
Jordan.
I turned. The snow behind lay unmarked. Again, the sound, softer.
Jordan?
The J dragged and the end cut short, like a tape pushed with a thumb and let go. The hair along my forearm stood and each felt like a wire set into the frost. Who's there? My breath went out white and small. The trees took it in. They keep what they take.
I'm here.
Hannah's voice, warm at the edges, the rising lilt that remembers joy without believing in it. Hannah, who had gone north and had gone quiet. Hannah, whose number I did not possess after losing my phone during a 3-day drunk. It was as if a thing had traced the shape of her and left out the soul, and yet the shape could pass for mercy at a distance. Say it again.
Come here, come here, come here.
The hitch and the pause were perfect, like a loop spooled under glass. My pulse worked in my wrists like trapped birds. You're not her. The woods went still as an empty church. The creek ceased its small talk. From behind the first rank of the pines came the practiced tread of something that had learned to walk and had not forgot. I watched into the black between the trunks and the black watch back, which is all someone needs to feel the world come thin beneath him. I ran for the cabin. The door was warped and I shouldered it and turned the bolt and stood listening with my jaw in my hand. Through the pane, something tall and pale stood among the trees, not moving, only watching. The land held its breath like the end of a prayer. The knock came. 3 taps. Polite.
Jordan. It's freezing out here.
So reasonable that the heart goes treacherous to hear it. You're not her, I told it. You're not her. It began to sob, small and stifled. a child made to be still.
Please, 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 please.
I stepped back from the door. Then another voice came, deep, even, my father.
Son, open the door.
My father had been dead 6 years, and his voice carried that fact like a bruise. The handle turned once, slowly. Wood creaked in the jam. A nail, too long and yellow, slid into the seam and tapped the wood twice as if to learn it, and withdrew as if satisfied. I retrieved my rifle from the closet, the old .30-30 Winchester carbine that had outlived better men than me, the stock blackened by 1,000 small fires. My hands were slick, though the room was cold. I worked the lever, and at the clack of it, the voice outside changed again. It was mine.
Jordan, put the gun down.
Shut up! My own laugh came through the door, but it had been worked of its warmth, the way a hide is worked of its hair.
You don't have to be afraid. I know what you did. I know why you're here.
Go away.
You don't want me to.
Near tender now.
You are so alone.
The steps withdrew. I heard the weight go into the timber, and before it sank under that black, it said a last thing. I did not sleep. I sat a chair to the door and laid the rifle across my knees, and the stove ticked as it died and made the small noises of old machines that remember work. At 3:17 a.m., the power failed and the only light was coal glow, and that light is older than your name and cares nothing for it. I thought to call the law, but what would I tell them? There is a thing outside that speaks in the skins of the dead. They would come and find nothing and leave, and I would owe them a thanks I did not meet. At first light, I unbolted the door. The yard lay churned with prints, not boots, bare. Long splayed toes, each like the tip of a root. Some set down atop my own as if a child had danced there with me, standing on a father's shoes, and the world in the image swung between what we lose and what comes to take it. I kept inside by day. At night it came to knock and would not speak. It scraped instead. Nails like awls, drawn slow on the wood. I lifted the curtain with 2 fingers. The glass flowered with frost, and there was nothing on the step or the yard, but a breathing came from the other side of the door, wet and labored, as if lungs had been borrowed from a drowned man, close enough to smell. "Hannah," I said. A coward's whisper, and I knew it.
I'm here.
What do you want? Though the question is the key that opens what should stay shut. A long pause.
To where are you?
I let the curtain fall. The breathing deepened. The scrape went to the window like a blind man learning a house. And then there was the kind of silence that weighs the bed and sits on your chest until you pledge it things. I did not move. On the third night, I set an analog tape recorder on the porch and thumbed the red key and left it there. The little reels turned like cold moons. Near midnight, the knocking began, louder. The machine clicked and ticked as if a fingertip tapped the scratched window of its cassette door. Snow hissed on the lid. When the sounds fell off, I brought the tape recorder in. Its face was smeared with some brown sap that smelled of rust and fennel. The tape had run as long as it was able. Wind, mostly. At 2:43 a.m., a voice came up like a drowned thing.
Jordan.
A breath. Then my voice whispering.
Jordan.
Again and again, until the names overlapped like crows. Beneath it, a second throat hissed along in words I could not scarce pull apart.
Inside you. Walk like you. Smell like you.
Then the sound of meat on wood, wet tearing, a shriek like iron drawn slow over stone. I fed the tape to the fire and watched the brown ribbon bind itself to the coals like a snake dying. On the fourth night, it did not knock. It did not speak. At 3, I woke to footsteps in the cabin, and the steps were measured and soft, like a nurse crossing a sick room. I took up the carbine. The steps halted at the bedroom door. The knob turned and the door came a thumb's width, and in that slit an eye watched me. My eye. Same color, same make. But the skin to it was wrong. Drawn too tight over a skull that was not my skull. The knowledge of it moved through me like snow melt. I fired through the wood, and the room broke open with the report, and something fell back heavy and made a wet, low moan as if breath were a lesson it had not finished. Then it went scrabbling, claws on planks. The front door tore wide open. By the time I had the rifle to my shoulder, the yard lay empty save for drag marks in the snow, as if a thing had gone on its belly towards the trees like a man under wire. At sunup, I left. I drove until the tank came empty, and took a room in a motel and put the chair to the door and wrote what had been. The phone lit with missed calls from numbers I did not know, and when I played the messages, there was only breathing. At the end came my voice.
I'm getting better.
That night, there were knuckles at the motel door. 3 taps. Polite. I watched the cheap wood as if it were the skin of the world, and I were watching for a pulse. I did not open. Part 2. Salt, iron, a motel, and a mirror. I sat on the bed with the covers in my fists, and the knock never came again. Cars hissed on the highway, and their light washed the curtains and was gone. Fear bends time, and even the past turns to look at you. By sunrise, I told myself the knock had been a shape my mind had carved from the dark to keep from drowning in it. At the office, the clerk slept, while a ball game replay talked in a small television burned a vivid color. I asked if anyone had come to my door around 3 a.m. He rubbed his eyes and shook his head and clicked among the cameras. Empty concrete, an icicle on a rail, no one. There is a way to cross a space and leave no track at all, and men have names for it that keep them from speaking the right one. I ate at a diner. Coffee that tasted like water playing a trick. I thumbed through the names in my phone as if Hannah might appear there by mercy alone. An old man in a green parka watched me the way a person watches a stray that has come in out of the weather. He lifted his cup and I lifted mine, and so the covenant was struck. Someone's wearing your voice. As if he had waited for the asking and tired of the wait. I can tell. You look hollowed. I smiled. I just need sleep. Sleep is where it walks best. My sister worked in Blackwater Canyon 30 years, and a thing came to her and started with tapping glass. Then it learned her third grade teacher's voice, and that woman was years in the ground. She said what was wrong was not the sound of the breath. The breath came late, like it had to remember it. I wanted him to be quiet. It felt like setting a place at the table for a storm. He went on because stories are their own weather. She never moved back to town. She drew a ring of salt and sat in it for 2 days. Said it washed from the threshold. Said it spoke like a needle. They found ropes of hair braided on her step. The sheriff told her coyotes, and she thanked him for the lie because there is charity in a lie when the truth will not carry light. If it knows you, it does not quit you. It carries what it learns in its teeth. When I paid and stepped out, the old man had gone. There were no prints in the snow. I told myself the wind had a broom. In the laundry room, I bought 4 boxes of kosher salt from a vending machine. I thought how odd it was that it was an option in a machine that only accepted coins. I carried them down the hall like an acolyte with bread. Foolishness is the shape of most salvation. Inside, I dragged the bed from the wall and set a chair in the middle of the carpet and poured a circle slow as prayer. I stepped into it and sat, the Winchester across my knees, the little tape machine on the bed with the red eye burning. I waited to be taught the lesson that would come. Nothing for a long time. The heater cut on and off like a man clearing his throat before a thing he does not want to say. The winter air turned the mouth to paper. A plow went past like a ship in fog. The smoke detector's red diode blinked like a heartbeat. Then the knocking began. Not at the door, in the wall. 3 taps. Play. I did not move. 3 more, lower, then 3 above, as if a blind man tested the size of a room with patience and with knowledge that rooms end and nights do not.
Jordan,
My father said from the vent.
I'm cold.
The grill rattled. The salt shone like the bones of whitefish. My father's voice coughed and tried again.
Son, I'm cold.
The body knows a lie by the angle of a syllable. The sound of a thing trying on a smile it did not earn. He is dead. He is dead. The bed sank as if a child had sat and then lay on his side, and the sheets drew in where a chest would rise and fall, and they began to rise and fall. A wet, slow breath that kept time with nothing men keep time with. Please, Hannah said, I need you to help me. It put a sob in her voice I had not heard when she walked in my life. The kind that will make a man ruin himself to stop it. It knew that, and that is a knowledge older than language. I kept my eyes on the ring of salt. I kept my eyes where my life was stored. I took up the recorder and turned the red eye on. The air turned to tinfoil and old coins, the boy's tongue on a battery. Something whispered by the window like wind climbing a stair. The words were not words. They were a sewing of sounds meant to pass for language to the lonely. If you can wear me, you can sit with me. If you can sit with me, you can copy me. If you can copy me, you can count. The whisper ceased. Count to 7. The room held its breath. Then my voice came from the vent, a mirror given weight.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
fast. No triumph in it. Only the truth of the thing, and the truth of what it wanted, and that truth proved worse than a lie. Backwards. It spoke the numbers back, slower, and gave the 7 that little downward turn I give when I'm unflinchingly certain. The room darkened as if the counting had gathered light. I played the porch tape. The resonance of the small speaker in the motel room made it sound thin, tinny, and the air leaned toward it to drink. "Say it," I said. "Say it with me." My name rose now from the dent in the sheets. And then again before the first had ended, and then faster until it spun like a child's top and never lost its edges. Teeth on teeth. I stood. The rifle felt heavy and wrong, as if it had come to know more than it should and wanted to tell it, and I did not want it to make choices for me. I set it down. I had removed the cheap mirror from the wall earlier. Light as a plate, I laid it on the floor inside the circle. The street lamp bled through the curtain, and the glass lifted a pale bar onto the ceiling like a doorway chalked in air. Step through. Come see me as I am. The mattress shifted as if something set its legs down from the bed. The air went colder. The hem of the curtain stirred as if pinched. The dent came to the edge and halted. It would not cross the salt. Come see. It laughed in my voice, patient.
No! You come see me.
The mirror showed the ceiling and my boots and my hands and the white ring. I kept my face clear of it. I did not wish to see my face unmoored from me. I drew a seam of salt across the glass so that if anything came, it would tread the grain and declare itself. I waited. There is a waiting where you become instrument and bat both, and the dark is radar and ancient text. The hall hummed and a woman sang a song with no tune as if her memory had forgotten the rules. The humming stopped at my door. 3 taps. Polite. Who is it? The recorder cooling in my palm. I set it on the mirror and let it run. Then a voice that belonged to the world. Housekeeping. Come back later. No problem. Steps went down the hall. I stood and thought how easy for a thing to wait there and borrow a real voice like a coat for Sunday. The heater cut and the quiet grew a body. The dent smoothed. A rasp came at the door, like a ring drawn over wood. On the mirror, the recorder shook once as if touched. I'm tired, my voice said from the bathroom. The faucet turned and a thread of water sang. I tipped the mirror to catch the bathroom door, cautious to keep my body as still as possible. The glass gave a strip of door and the light under it and the thin dark of the threshold. At a threshold, a man decides what he is, and that is an old story told in every tongue that ever failed to save us. Jordan, it said from behind the door. The voice deepened until it might have belonged to a brother I do not have. We can share. I did not answer. The breath goes out and returns, and you do not let it catch. The door opened an inch. The fan's small weather rose and fell. A hand came round the jamb. My hand, but not. The knuckles mine and the nail beds mine, but the fingers long by a 1/4 inch. And under the ring finger, a dark line ran like a vein, drawn in ink, and the palm turned and trembled at the wrist. Come look. You do not need to fear what you are. The hand withdrew and the door opened and a face leaned into the light. You know a mask from a distance, a face and not, skin stretched too clean. Imagine that mask, cut of your own features and pulled upon a skull ill fit to it. The eyes were right, and that almost undid me. Right eyes with no weight behind them, coins pressed into wet clay. They tracked me when I moved the glass, and they tracked nothing else. Soul is a thing that tracks the rest of the world, and this is how you know it is present in something that draws breath. It smiled. The mouth opened wider than a mouth opens. The front teeth were my teeth, and behind them lay a second row like gray pebbles, as if a mouth kept a mouth. Come look! And the back mouth repeated it a breath later, like an echo that hunted the first and meant to devour it. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Spam. I let it ring. I opened a voicemail I keep. My father on a pier in the wind.
Call me back when you can. I got an idea about how to fix that cabin roof. We'll do it together.
The thing listened like a starved dog listens to living meat. It tilted its head and said, "We'll do it together." And the back mouth said it after, together, and the word together nearly put me on my knees. The world we wanted is a world we never built. Step in. If you would do anything with me, step in. It leaned and the light cut the jaw and I saw the seam. A faint line ear to ear under the chin. A sign of something peeled and stretched. They looked at the salt as a cat looks at a tub. Not fear, disgust. I had bought a travel iron because tales older than me talk of iron, and I am not above tales. It sat hot at the chair leg. The orange eye burned. I stood with the mirror in one hand and the iron in the other. Fear makes children. That is its craft. It will not help. Things like you love small tools. Tricks and rings and lists of names and recordings so your story makes you the one left outside. It smiled.
You made yourself easy.
You made yourself easy. Two long fingers pressed its cheek and the cheek dented with a wet promise and it tugged and the skin came a little loose. It showed me the word easy with my own face. You cannot come in and I cannot go out. Tell me what you want and we will finish. The coin look drew back and something older leaned forward to the holes. The back mouth clicked. What I want is what you brought. Your shape and your sound and the sorrow that owns you. I want the last thought before sleep and the first breath upon waking. I want the way your mother said your name when she was too tired to mean it. The way your dog tilts his head when a spoon falls and it is trying to discern your mood from your tone. The stink of your best friend's house on a hot noon and the small cave it leaves in you. I want your ease. You will make me fluent. Why me? As if the answer mattered. It's not about you. And let some small part of my face go kind. You are a good pocket. The phone buzzed again. The thing listened, charmed. It copied the machine's rattle in the back of its throat and made of it a language men know and hate. Step in, I said. If you can wear me, you can stand where I draw a line. The eyes did not move side to side but forward. It opened its mouth to answer, and in that breath I kicked the mirror, and the glass slid and cut a bright nick in the salt, and before thought could pull me back, the thing came through the gap like a cat under a fence. Cold filled the circle and stole the breath from me. The glass struck my boot, and in it I saw my own legs. A second set, longer, bowed, and wrong. I set the iron to a place in the air where nothing stood, and it hissed, and the room smelled of singed hair. It screamed without a sound, and the scream took place in my teeth. The lights failed, the heater died, the orange lamp and the iron went black. For a blink, the bath light was alone, then that too went out, and a night came that had its own weight and it settled on my back like a rider. A hand gripped my shoulder. The iron shook and I dropped it, and it struck my boot. It leaned to my ear, and the stink of a fox den came, and it whispered, I can get better than this. I threw an elbow and caught a face. The face gave that strange soft hard the faces give when hit with bone. It rocked and did not fall. It talked in my ear, low and quick, string of facts. My first address, the date I left the house with the blue door I liked, a locker number from grade school. Things that mean nothing until a thing that wants you recites them. I dropped to my knees within the ring like the spine had been torn from me. My hand found the phone and I hit play on the voicemail I'd received earlier. A bright, cruel voice said I'd won a cruise if I pressed 1. It said my name with the machine's patience. It said my name wrong. The thing flinched. The phone's noise was a living emptiness and it could not drink it. Its grip at my throat eased. My hand found the iron in the dark. I set it to the seam beneath the chin and did not wait on light. The hiss rose. The smell turned from hair to boiled leather to rotting meat that a buzzard would ignore. The hold went slack. A weight fell. I rolled. It struck the floor. The iron rang tile. The phone rattled to the wall. With the chair leg, I dragged the nick and the salt shut, and the ring closed and the cold lifted like a curtain, and I lay shaking until daylight bled in under the drapes. The bath door inched open. The mirror there was cracked from crown to heel. A coil of hair lay on the tile like a dead eel. My fingers came black and tacky from my neck. I did not cry. Tears are an invitation, and I would not invite it further in. I slept a little in the ring, not the sleep that heals, the sleep that exists in the middle. When I woke, the heater had remembered its work. I stepped the line and cleaned the floor with towels and wrapped the coil of hair and put it in the trash. I kept the iron. I kept the cracked glass. A man keeps relics even when he has no God for them. I bought more salt, nails, a hammer. A length of chain because iron in the hand is a plan, even if the plan is only to remain upright. 2 nights and nothing knocked. Food had no taste. The maid stood at the threshold and asked about sheets and eyed the ring as a witness with no statute to cite. "Luck for a fishing trip," I said. And she nodded, accepting my poor lie. I dreamed I stood in the door of a boy's room while something thin breathed under the bed. And when I bent, a hand came from the dark and touched my cheek with such tenderness, it almost felt comforting. When I woke, my cheek was wet, the ring unbroken. Prints on the carpet where something had stood, thinking just beyond the salt. At dawn, I packed and drove back to the cabin, because if you think that is feeding a wolf, you have not felt the pressure of an empty place with a thing lurking behind you. I went to where my name felt honest under my own breath. If I were to be taken, I would rather it be where elks strip bark and the creek tells what it knows, than in a room where the loudest thing is a machine pretending to care. The road was unplowed. The drifts took the muffler. The steps were glassed and ice. I stood in the yard and listened. Wind whispering through the pines. A crow. The creek. Nothing else, and that nothing nodded like a judge. Inside, the table had been moved 2 inches left. New thin scratches scored the jam. I salted the thresholds. I set the iron on the stove and warmed it. I did not draw a circle. A man can live a night in one, but not a life. I broke a cheap mirror into broad shards and laid them in the sink. It may help nothing. It helped me. Snow came on at dusk. The fire ate wood too quick. I let the dark arrange itself by the panes and set the tape machine on the table and pressed record and left it running because if I should die, I wanted the shape of the night. And if I should live, I wanted to hear the shape I had gone through. Near to, the creek grew loud and I thought the ice was breaking. And I opened the door and it was not ice. Someone was kneeling at the water and slapping it flat like a child. Shape crouched. The back long and pale, and the spine stood like a ladder under a canvas. Fur at the shoulders and none at the skull, and the face held no feature you would call a feature, only the notion of one. It lifted water and let it run through its fingers and made a sound low in its throat, like if a scream could come from the throat with the mouth sewn shut. It turned and knew me without looking. It lifted its head, and in a breath it held a face, my face, as a mask in the hand. It pressed it up, and the edges found the seam under the chin, and it smiled, and the smile was practice. It waved both hands like a child to a bus, and then pointed at the earth beside it with its head canted. "Come see," it mouthed. I did not go. The cold burned my lungs and made me feel clean, which is not the same as safe. I lifted a hand and gave back a small wave. I pointed at the door and shook my head. No. It cocked its head and laughed without a sound and dipped its hands into the creek and wet the face until it shone. Then it turned and went into the timber with a gait borrowed from me from some graceful beast with longer limbs. Do not look back, because things that mean to return do not look back. I barred the door and sat, and let the recorder take down the mice and the walls, and the sound of wood turning into light. I do not know what it means that it washed its face in the creek, a baptism or a craft. I do not know what it means that it asked and did not take. I know it is out there, and the word-getting carries a direction. That morning, new prints ring the yard, bare and deep and longer than mine. A perfect circle around the house, then away. No second set. No small beast. I stood on the porch and looked into the trees until the cold watered my eyes. Then I went in and wrote this, because writing is the last kind of salt, and men have always drawn their circles with it when the dark comes near. The man wants a rule, I have one. Your voice is yours until the first night you answer back. After that, it belongs to any that can carry a tune. Do not answer the door. Do not correct it when it says your name wrong. Do not teach it more of you than the world already gives for free. The world gives plenty, and it keeps a record. I will teach it nothing more. I will let morning be what morning is. I will let my breath prove it belongs. I will keep shut all the doors in me. If you ever hear me at your door, leave me out in the cold. I am getting better.